Welcome to another episode of Grime Time. Today we're going to be looking at something that's a little unique. We're not necessarily weathering a freight car as a whole. We're not doing a locomotive. We're going to do a very particular piece of those two things. And we're going to look at the weathering of a wheel set and truck specifically. Now, this is just something that you can really do to kick up the quality of your weathering skills. Not everybody does it, but it's something that I've been doing for the past few months here, and I'm really liking the results. It really brings together the model as a whole. So I wanted to share with you guys how I do it and what it's going to take for you to do it as well. There's a few basic things you're going to need in order to do this, most of which you should already have if you've been either following my other Grime Time videos or you weather yourself. The first is your chalk pastels, Tamiya weathering powders, the wheel chocks or the wheels themselves, and then you're also going to need a relatively fine paintbrush of some sort. You really want a fine one, not like a broad one like that. You want the fine one just because that's going to get in the little nooks and crannies of the wheel or the trucks a lot better than anything else will. So with that all being said, there are some other things that you're definitely going to want to have. Actually, I should have mentioned clear coat you're also going to want. I always use this Krylon matte finish when I'm clear coating models, so you're definitely going to want that as well. That's an essential. But there's a couple of things that are kind of an optional pickup, but really do help. The first of which is some rust-colored spray paint. I use this Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal Primer. I like the results with that. And then the other thing that's going to be a huge help is picking up a wheel weathering jig. Now, unfortunately, I only have one for size 33-inch metal wheels, so usually when I do 36-inch, I have to weather them by hand and then clean off the trucks or the wheel sets themselves so that they don't get the track all dirty. It's a bit of a pain. As soon as I come across a 36-inch jig, I'm going to pick one up, but I've had trouble locating one. So anyway, the wheel weathering jig itself makes things really easy. And then the only other thing that makes life a little easier is maybe just take an old paintbrush one that's wrecked or something, and it makes it a lot easier. What you just do is once the wheels are out of the truck, you stick the trucks right on there, and you can clear coat and paint everything based on that. So bear with me here, and we're going to get into the first step of the wheel weathering process here. Alright, so as you can see here, I've gone ahead and gotten the trucks and the wheels themselves separated from each other. And the only other thing I did was I went ahead and clear coated each of them, which should be your first step with any sort of weathering project, no matter what it is. Now, the first big step in the weathering process of these wheel sets is going to be to give them a layer of the Rust-Oleum, the rust-colored spray paint. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the powders and everything like that right after that. Alright guys, so we've gone ahead and gotten the initial layer of the rust-colored paint onto the model here. As you'll notice, I kind of did a lighter coat on the trucks than I did on the wheels. The reasoning behind that for me is just to make sure that I'm having a little bit of contrast between the wheels and the trucks themselves. Because if you look at the prototype, that's how they are in real life. There's not a similarity in color between the two. Well, I should say they're not exactly the same. So I really try to replicate that in the model by putting a little bit lighter layer of rust-colored paint on the trucks than I do on the wheels. So the next step after that is going to be to put a layer of fading powder coat or chalks on the trucks and the wheel sets. I just use a little bit of white colored pastel chalk and a little bit of the gray to get a nice fade layer. Maybe a little bit of black if you want, just to add a little bit of of a darker coloring to the fading powder. A little bit of grime, if you will. Just get that all mixed up here, left with a nice gray color. Give you a little bit of variety. Then you're just going to dab it onto the trucks and the wheels themselves, just trying to make sure you're getting it in the little nooks and crannies where the spring is and everything, and then just getting a nice even layer over the truck itself. And then you'll just repeat that on each of these, each of the sides of the trucks here. I just keep it on the paintbrush here because I find it's easier to handle, especially when the paint's a little wet like it is, because I don't have the patience to wait for it to fully dry, nor should I, because it actually takes the powder a little bit better when it's still wet. Okay, so the trucks are out of the way. We're going to repeat that same exact step here with the wheels themselves. You know, just a light layer, nice and easy. Don't want to overdo it with this layer like I just did on that truck, or on that wheel, excuse me. Alright, and then the next step after this is just going to be to add another layer of clear coat, and believe it or not, we're actually already almost done. The wheel weathering process is not one that takes a very long time. Nice and easy way to add some realism to your models. So let me get this clear coated. We're going to come back and then do a layer of rust, maybe 2 layers of rust, just to add a couple of different colors, couple of different layers of weathering to these trucks, and then we'll be done. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Okay, guys. So we've now got that initial layer of clear coat over top of the fade, and as you can see, and as is the case most times, when you put that clear coat on, it really does take away a lot of the fade, which you might have been noticing before we did the clear coat. So now we're going to get into that layer of rust here. I usually just use, as far as colors, I'll use just a little bit of brown, the rust color, and maybe just a little orange. I usually try to stick to 3 different colors, which makes the blend a little more balanced than it would be otherwise. So let me get this all shaved off and in there. We'll get it mixed up here, and you'll see we're left with a pretty nice rust coloring there that'll go on quite well for these. So again, you're really just going to dab it on, really try to work it into the springs there, as that's really the focal point of the truck. That's where most eyes will be drawn that are drawn to a truck, at least. And as you can see, just by looking at it now, we're really starting to get a little bit of a difference with the rust than we did with just the fade coat. You can start to see multiple different colors shining through there. This looks like a truck now that's been through a little bit. Looks like it's been on the rails for a little while. So we'll continue to do that with the trucks here. Real quick, and again, just make sure you're trying to dab a little bit in there with the springs. And then we'll get into the wheels themselves, which I'm thinking I gotta make just a little more powder here, so bear with me. Another thing you can do here is kind of just try to change up the percentages of powders in your mixture. Try to make it just a little bit different of a shade of rust, just to make sure there's a contrast between the trucks and the wheels themselves. I'm going to try to go just a little bit darker with these wheels than I did with the trucks in order to try to achieve that effect. Alright, so again, just going to dab it right onto the truck itself, or the wheel itself, excuse me. And again, like I said with the fade layer, a lot of this is just going to be blown right away when we do the clear coat. Unfortunately, it just doesn't stick well at all. So while it looks a little drastic before the clear coat is on the truck and the wheels, you're left with a pretty balanced, pretty close to the original brown spray paint that we used. We're left with a pretty much similar color to that, with just a little bit more characteristic to it. One thing when you are putting the powder on these trucks, you do want to make sure that you're not leaving extra powder in there, because that doesn't look good once it gets clear coated on there and everything. Alright, so we now have that that rust layer on there. I think we're going to go ahead and do 2 layers. But I got to clear coat this layer first, and then we'll be back right after we're done with the last layer of the rust, and we'll see the finished product here. So hang with me. Alright, so I've gone ahead and added that one more layer of powders to the wheels, and we're going to go ahead and call those done. But one other way that I'm going to try to get the difference in the color of the trucks here is by going in with just probably 1 layer. As you can see, I don't have much of it left of this Tamiya powder on the trucks, which should give it just a little bit of a difference in color. So in order to do that, I'm going to use these, they almost look like Q-tips. I picked these up at Hobby Lobby. Tamiya makes them themselves. They work out really well for applications like this. I'm just going to get a little bit of the rust color in here, and I'm just going to, you know, spread it out all over the truck here, just to, like I said, get just a difference in texture there between the two. So the one thing you got to be careful with this the Tamiya powder is it likes to stay clumpy, so you got to make sure you get it all spread out there, all over the truck and everything, to make it look realistic. And we're not really looking for a full covering with this. We're really just trying to get a couple different splotches and places where rust is showing through just a little bit more than other parts of the truck. So again, just another way to add realism. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done on the rest of them, because you guys don't need to see me doing it. And we'll be back with what's basically the finished product and some photos of it. So bear with me. Alright guys, so here we have it. This is the finished product. Judging by the initial image on the video, you know, you wouldn't even think that these are the same exact trucks we started with, but they are. One thing I did want to show you guys, though, is there's additional things that you can do to these trucks, just to add a little bit more detail. You'll see on the CN boxcar I have here, the sides are shiny. That basically how I did that is I just took an X-Acto knife and just shaved the paint off the sides. That makes it look like it's been through a hump yard and gone through the retarders, which kind of knock a lot of the rust right off the wheels. So that's an option that you guys can keep in mind. I just wanted to share that with you. And with that, we'll wrap up this video. I'm going to put some pictures here at the very end of the finished product. Back on the car, show you the car itself, and hopefully that'll be it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really do enjoy making these Grime Time videos for you, and I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I enjoy making them for you. Again, if this is your first time watching the channel, please go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I certainly appreciate everybody who does subscribe to this channel and watch my videos regularly. Without you, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much again, guys, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye-bye.